Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about growth by acquisitions. So, most of you running a business, you've probably thought to yourself at some point, should I buy another business? Is that a faster way to grow? Certainly something that I thought quite early on in my first business, and I was trying to figure out when does it make sense to just put money back into organic growth? When should I look at other businesses? It always feels like it's probably a nicer idea on paper than the reality is. There's so many uncertainties. Um, but all that being said, for some businesses, it really does make sense to grow via acquisitions rather than organic growth, or at least at that point in their life. So the question really is, when exactly is that the case? I think very early on in your business, you're going to get the highest ROI just putting money back into your business. So that could be helping with marketing, it could be hiring some people to help you fulfill your service or your product or whatever it is you're doing, um, and just growing your offering, and you've kind of established product market fit, and now really the way to grow is to just sell more. So putting more money into sales and marketing is the best thing for you. But at some point, and it's going to be a different point for every business depending on what it is you're offering, what the competition is like, how much demand there is for the business, you might reach a point, it could be 1 million in revenue, it could be 5 million in revenue, where you're going to get diminishing returns on your money. So either you can't grow anymore, or the return on the capital that you have to put in to reach that growth doesn't make sense. So at that point, maybe acquiring another business is a good way to grow. And that could be, let's say you're an agency, you fulfill some services and you realize you could offer more services to your existing clients. And there's kind of two ways to do that. One is to figure out how to fulfill those services yourself, to hire some people, get good at doing it, go through this growth pain period. And essentially, it's like starting a new agency from scratch, just with an existing customer base. Or you can look around for an agency that already does that service, maybe already has some deal flow, some lead generation coming in, but crucially, they've got the processes down, they've got the people in place, they've got the talent. In that case, maybe an acquisition of that agency makes sense. You can cross sell to each other and you can fulfill services for one another. And similarly, maybe an acquisition makes sense where you've actually got the demand already, you just don't have the capacity. So you acquire a smaller agency or maybe even a larger agency so that you can get that capacity, and you don't have to go out and hire a bunch of people and go through all those growing pains again. You can just say, actually, I'm just going to hire this business. Really, it's really like a talent acquisition scenario. So sometimes it's because you don't know how to do the service, you just know that it makes sense to grow that way. And sometimes it's because you just need the people to help you, and it's going to be faster to kind of acqui-hire or just bring another agency into the fold. And sometimes that works for a merger as well. So the difference is with an acquisition, you're going out and buying another agency or another business, maybe 80% or 100%. Whereas a merger, you might say, okay, let's just put our two companies together. We'll be able to grow faster as a result of that. Realize some back end synergies, but there's no cash changing hands. You just figure out, okay, do we become 50-50 owners? Is ours bigger, so we're 70, you're 30? That's kind of how the merger works, and that can work well with smaller businesses. But yeah, I'm really talking about growth through acquisitions at this point. So most of the time, it's going to make sense for you to acquire something which is similar to what you're doing. And I've used an agency as an example, but it doesn't have to be. It could be an e-commerce business where you're acquiring another e-commerce business. You want to add their brand into yours. Or it could be an e-commerce business where you're going to acquire a content business that can help do marketing and sales of your product. It could be a SaaS business which is hiring a service. It could be SaaS which is hiring content. So there's lots of different options. It doesn't have to be the agency acquiring another agency route. Again, sometimes it could be something like your agency does a certain thing and you're constantly sending referrals to this other agency because you say, hey, we don't do that, these guys do a really good job of it, you should go work with them. So at some point you might say, actually, I'm just going to acquire them. It it could also be less of a strategic thing and more of a financial thing. So your business is throwing off a bunch of cash. You think, okay, I want to put this money somewhere. I want to get good returns. I'm no longer seeing the same returns as I was by putting it back into my existing business. Maybe I should go out and buy another one. And yes, you should still focus on a strategic one, something which is similar enough to yours that you understand it, and 1 + 1 is likely to be higher than 2. But it's also maybe the motivation is just it's just about growing your revenue, and it's a financial decision. So you can go out and get this business for 3 to 4 times profit. That's 25-30% ROI. You think, yeah, you can't get that ROI putting the money back into your existing business, so that's a good decision. But then you also think, okay, I'm at 5 million revenue, I'm just going to go out and buy another 3 million revenue, at 30% gross margins, and it's just adding to my overall bottom line. So when you're thinking about it from a financial point of view, you're going to be wondering, well, do I actually need to buy something similar to my business? Maybe I should diversify. Like if I've got a podcasting agency, should I go buy another podcasting agency, or should I just buy an e-commerce brand? Most of the time you're going to want to do something which is similar to what you're doing. That's not necessarily because you can use your existing team to run that business, because if all else were equal, that business wouldn't need your team to run it. It would already have a team, and your team, you don't want to dilute their efforts on your business by getting them to work on another business. The reason you should get something similar is because you understand it. You can use your team if you have to, or maybe some of that team can come and help with your business. But it's really about your ability to see the value in the deal. Whereas if you just go out and buy something totally different, then it's a lot harder to do that successfully. Now, at OnFolio, that's what we do. We buy a bunch of different businesses. There's overlap sometimes. They're completely disparate other times. But that's what we optimize for. That's how we set up. That's how we approach our due diligence. We've spent years building that skill, learning the lessons that I don't want you to have to learn. So most people really just stay in your lane and acquire either something similar because you want to grow market share, something complementary because you want to increase your offerings and do cross promotion, something synergistic, and all these other fancy words. But basically, it's about growing, because either your team can't grow that way organically, or it's just going to be too slow, and it's much faster for you to just go out and make an acquisition. And the other reason is obviously sometimes financing as well. So if you've got a ton of cash and you just want to finance the deal with your own money, great. But if you want to bring in outside investors, or maybe get a bank loan or something like that, then it's obviously going to be a lot easier to access that capital and raise that money if you're buying something similar, because people aren't going to say, do you know how to run this? They're going to be like, oh yeah, okay, I can see how this makes sense. It also increases the chances that, as well as both businesses being good businesses, the ability for them to grow one another is a lot higher as well if you're buying something. So it's kind of stacking the deck in your favor if you're buying something similar to what you're already used to. So the question really that you should ask yourself when you're thinking, should I grow via acquisitions, or should I just reinvest this money back into my business, is really, what do you think you can get if you reinvest it back in your business? I would say if all else were equal, it's a lot less risky to reinvest in your business, and certainly early on you're going to get much higher returns. But if you're thinking like, nothing's working, I can't really grow any higher, I'm already one of the largest businesses in my space, I can't see a path to growing without acquiring something, then yeah, like, you should probably look at acquisitions. But if you're thinking, well, no, every time I spend money in my business, I hire someone, everything grows, then probably that's the best place that you should spend your money, because you don't really want to take on all the. I mean, doing a successful acquisition is a skill, and you need to spend time building that skill and learning how to do due diligence, learning how to negotiate. It's really not being like, I'm going to go out and buy another business. There we go, done it. hey, it worked. It's you got to go out and build another skill, and so most of the time it's going to make sense for you to just stick within your own business. But at some point, actually, that changes, and now if you want to grow, acquisitions are the best way, maybe even the only way. So um, this is first what you figure out. Where actually are you? Are you at that point where now you should go out and learn how to acquire, or not? So basically, I'm saying, in some situations it's a huge distraction, it's a huge shiny object, but in other situations it's exactly what you should do. And the key is figuring out, well, where am I in that stage? And again, it's going to be very different. I can't say this is when you should do it and this is when you shouldn't, but these are the things that you should be thinking about. Yeah, and then another question that people often ask is, well, okay, if I buy a business that's similar to mine, should I merge it with mine? Should I keep it separate? And then should you merge the back end, but maybe not merge the website? So you've got kind of like two storefronts, two opportunities to get clients, or should you just merge everything? Again, that's really going to depend on so many different factors that I can't give you a one size fits all answer. But most of the time, it's better to keep them running separately because they've both proven that they can run separately. If you merge them together, there's all these unknowns. What happens to the culture? Is there going to be some team obsolescence where you should fire some people? Are people not going to get along? Is some of the integration going to fail? If you actually merge websites, is the SEO going to break? Is the attribution links going to keep working? Our customers are going to be confused about why there's suddenly the brand name has changed. So it's generally less risky to just keep the businesses running separately, but it could be more profitable to merge them. So again, you have to think to yourself, what is the best situation? I'm actually super happy to jam with you on this. If you reach out and discuss things, I'll give you my thoughts. But this kind of summary of this video is that in some situations it really does make sense to grow via acquisitions. It's not like just a fun thing that you're going to do. In other situations, it's probably not the best use of your time. The real key is to just think to yourself, when does it make sense and when might it not make sense? And from there, you can start to find the answers that could really unlock huge new growth for you. You look at Onfolio, we went from 1 million revenue last year to about 5 million revenue this year, hopefully going to do 15 next year, and that's all through acquisitions. So for us, it absolutely makes sense, and for you, it could make sense too.